Alrighty. Credits. Oh no. Here, I'll mute it for the stream so that you don't have to listen to that. Oh my gosh. All right, I'll bring it back so that people can listen to it. All right. Grandia 3 has been conquered. Let me get my thoughts. I'm gonna throw it out there that I do not have as many thoughts as I would have liked for this game, which is becoming a kind of like a regular problem for me, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, Grandia 3 has been conquered. This was a viewer requested game by Aeromio, so thank you very much for the recommendation. For my first impressions of the game, we can reduce the volume. There y'all go. We can barely hear it. For my first impressions, weirdly enough, I really enjoy what I have experienced so far. I find myself liking the game's liking the game's start a great deal, to the point where it feels more memorable than Grandia 1 and 2. Oh my gosh. Does she have children? Oh my gosh. This is insane. That kid. Why is it that they are always having children? Every time.
Hey, Daddy, can I fly too?
Anyways. What about Mama, though? Where is Mama? Alright. Let's see. Weirdly enough, I really enjoy what I've experienced so far from my first impressions. I found myself liking the game's start a great deal, to the point where it feels more memorable than Grandia 1 and 2. I like the characters, and I like their interactions with each other. I think it's super unique and cool for Miranda, Yuki's mom, to travel with the party and be a party member. It offers a nice dynamic that I don't feel has been explored before. Combat still has some of the system quirks that make it weird, but also a fun combat system. The addition of aerial attacks is very cool. And for my overall thoughts on the game, I enjoyed it quite a bit until we got to Arcriff, and then it crashed and burned for me. As mentioned in my first impressions, like, I was really enjoying the dynamic of Miranda being in the party, because it showed this nice progression of Yuki, and it showed this caring mother, like, traveling with her son to make sure that he's safe and things like that. And it was just a wonderful little story to be a part of. And you know what? If they ended the game, you know, as soon as he flew away, as soon as Yuki flew away on the plane or something like that, I might have been okay with that. You know, it was such a nice section of the story, but then it just kind of went into the typical Grandia shenanigans once Arcriff came around. The story became way less interesting. The characters stopped getting the development that felt meaningful or any sort of progress in their personalities and whatnot. Um, and all the plot progression stuff just felt really silly. Combat was still very much the same, so there is that. So for story, was it satisfying? I'm gonna say like yes, but only just. You know, we did the arc, we beat the big bad. The thing is, we didn't. The problem here is the redemption arc just kind of it always ruins it for me. It's never fun to have this redemption arc just kind of steal away the show. You know, like this guy did some terrible things, so he should be treated for the terrible thing. The way he should be treated is based off of the terrible things that he did. And you know, the redemption arc getting shoved down our throats is a JRPG staple. And you know, I honestly, maybe I should just make it a cardinal sin at this point. We might have to do that. Did it feel complete? I would say it felt complete. There's that. How was the pacing? So I would say the pacing was not great in the section of the game that I liked, because we were just kind of going around doing silly things. And I would say the pacing in the section that I didn't like, which was going to all the Guardians and figuring out what to do and flying around on the plane and stuff like that, was actually pretty okay. Which is an interesting dynamic there. For thoughts on the story, the opening hours of the game were actually really enjoyable. The dynamics between Miranda, Yuki, and Alfina were nice to experience, while the plot of getting Alfina to Arcriff was simple. Building up these characters felt fantastic. The scene where Yuki gets his plane from Schmidt and Miranda has to bid him farewell was so nice. It was so nice. I really, really like how they did that scene. And they built up to it pretty well too. You know, where like they could have done the part better where Yuki was giving more vibes that he was going to leave with Alfina, but it wasn't necessarily like a negative or anything like that. But man, that scene just, it gets you in the feels. It was so nice. It makes it even that much worse that Miranda was never to be seen again. You know, even if she was just chilling in the house, that would have been okay for me, but she just vanishes. Maybe there's like a side quest or something like that that involves her, you know, who knows. But yeah. Story has been extremely lacking since reaching Arcriff. The character development, narrative drive, and plot unraveling just got way less interesting. As an example, each Guardian has wasted our time with some extreme nonsense. Griff says, no matter what happens, don't hate your brother. And like, what has that actually done for us? You know, that didn't stop Zorn from doing anything. You know, all it did was set up a a redemption arc for him where he actually doesn't even contribute in any way, shape, or form to uh, where the ending goes. Drac says something along the lines of, all of your questions will be answered in time, but for now, just believe in the ebb and flow of time. Which basically just says, go unfold a chair on the beach and just go relax because, things are going to play out in the way that they're supposed to play out. Which is ridiculous. It's like we need direction and we need help on how to solve this problem. And you're telling us to just relax. It's not a big deal. I was like, hello? Yote says something along the lines of, you've experienced loss, and there is a truth in lost. Follow the light. I don't know about y'all, but I didn't see very many lights to follow on this journey. So again, not very helpful. Seba said, the answer you seek is within you. The bonds that tie you together are your only hope. The only bonds that were formed in this game were between Yuki and Alfina, and you could make an argument of Alfina and Emilius, although that was a bond that they had already had. But you can make that argument, and that's it. Some of you might say, oh, but what about the bond between Hecht and Alfina? Well, they didn't develop that at all. So, once again, we just have nonsense coming out of a guardian's mouth that doesn't help whatsoever. Unama, the dolphin, the last one, says something along the lines of, I've been waiting for you as you're the only one who can save the world. Then that particular guardian proceeds to vanish without saying anything else. And we just get their power or whatever. Did they die? Did they go to a different timeline? What's going on? Why is Emilius able to summon Zorn? Or why, if his quest is to kill all the Guardians and then summon Zorn, by not having killed Unama, that means that you've failed in your quest and you didn't kill all the Guardians. So I'm very confused, like how this all lines up. And then what was that giant white snake dragon thing Emilius was riding? Where did he get that? What is it all about? It's in several cutscenes, and we don't know anything about it. But and it's not necessarily important that we know anything about it. But it's just one of those things where where does somebody get a giant flying white snake? And how does nobody hear about it? How does nobody know about it? How did that symbiotic relationship occur? I have those questions. Who even is Raven? Why is he dressed all futuristic? And why does he have crazy powers? Raven's arc was very disappointing. This guy just running around doing his own thing, and then he dies. It's really disappointing that he didn't join our party. Incredibly missed opportunity. He should have joined the party. I actually thought Emilius would join the party at the end there, but I guess they're locked in on the 4 party members thing, which I don't have here for gameplay mechanics and design because, it just happened. But kicking out Hecht or Alfina at the end there is messed up. And I don't like that. That being said, if I had to kick someone out, it would have been Donna or Ulf. And I think Ulf is the correct choice for my particular setups, because I I could have just swapped Donna to buff people. The verse realm hasn't really amounted to anything. Can you, like, the game set up the verse realm to be super interesting at the start. And it's like, oh yeah, there's these orbs, and like they suck things into this realm where it's all glass, and people are struggling to live there and stuff like that. And they set that up to be a really cool mystery, and then we finally go there, and it's just like, yeah, the Guardians lived here once, and then they left, because of Zorn, and that's it. Like, can we at least fight Zorn in the verse realm or something like that? Like, can we tie it all back to the verse realm? But nothing really happens to make the verse realm important at all. Sure, we get those cutscenes and whatnot that happen in the verse realm. We meet Hecht in the verse realm, but the verse realm itself doesn't do anything important to justify its existence. So you can like literally grab those scenes and those characters and those locations and plop them in the real world, and there would be no difference. So I think they really dropped the ball on making the verse realm amount to something. For writing slash characters, I'm just gonna say Miranda was the best character in this game. She's totally awesome, and she leaves the party way too soon, and it is such a shame. For gameplay mechanics and design, what gameplay elements stand out? The change in how skills and magic is done actually results in a net positive for me. I liked being able to customize my characters, and it's cool that I can craft magic eggs. Yeah, I like that I can like mix and match all of these skills. I can swap out magic based on like the build that I'm trying to accomplish. I can craft eggs to empower certain spell schools that I'm using. I can equip certain skill books that allow me to empower the skills that I'm using to fit the builds that I want to go through. Like, it's pretty cool. That being said, leveling up magic in skill level wasn't as nice though. Characters fall pretty far behind, and it restricts that customization I praise it for. I'd much rather see it tied to level or story progression, but it's certainly a neat idea to tie it to the actions you take in combat. Being able to see progress towards the next level may help alleviate some concerns. So, yeah, while the customization is nice, the big issue is that you have to do specific things in combat to gain levels to improve your ability to cast bigger spells and get bigger boosts and things like that. And the issue here is that, for a character like Donna, she was basically casting spells the entire game and didn't get level 10. Yuki was basically just doing the normal attacks the entire game, and he didn't get level 10, and he's been in the party the entire time. Nobody got level 10. And then on the other side, it's like some of these characters have been casting auxiliary spells a decent amount, but they're not really getting the magic levels to help them out. So I really wish there was a different way to go about that. The menuing could probably be condensed better. Not sure why I can only interact with skills and magic in save points or shops. It only makes the process more annoying. Should be able to equip and unequip them from the normal menu. This was definitely an awkward restriction that I don't think needed to exist. in even in the case of I have just unlocked this super ultra mega hyper spell and I want to boost it to level 3, equip it and boost it to level 3. Like, what's wrong with that? The highest cost spell that I've seen in this game is 99 MP. And casting one of those early on in the game is one, like, not necessarily all that realistic. And two, um, you have to get the spell too. And so, what's the problem of just equipping it in the dungeon? Or equipping it anywhere you want in the dungeon, or anywhere you want in the overworld, or whatever. It's confusing. I spent approximately 25 minutes on a boss fight with 2 enemies in it, and was getting close to killing them. Then they both ran away, wasting my time due to no experience or other rewards granted. That was a suckerfoo. Despite the opening of the game showing plane racing, and there being an island where Schmidt raced planes, there doesn't appear to be any way to race planes from what I can see, and that is sad. This is actually pretty disappointing. Um, we have an airplane, and we have this character who like looks up to Schmidt and really wants to emulate Schmidt. And we have this island where Schmidt got famous for racing airplanes. And there just doesn't seem to be any way to engage in any sort of pod racing in this game, which I can understand. But it just seemed like a natural fit and a no-brainer. And based off of the vibes the game was giving, it seemed like that was something that would be in the game. So it just sticks out to me that they didn't have that. Mimics are terrifying. They are absolutely the stuff of nightmares. For combat, the menu wheel is much more preferred here to prior iterations in the series, much less annoying to navigate, and much easier to find what I was looking for. I appreciate it on this one. Boss fights still felt like multiple part spam, like in prior games. It has resulted in less interesting fight design in my eyes because so much emphasis is placed on canceling, which removes the ability to do cool things we built characters to do. I think this is just a fundamental flaw with this particular combat system, where on one hand, it is super cool that an enemy can try to use an ability and you have the capacity to stop them from using that ability. That in of itself is a cool interaction. The larger issue is that basically every fight is constructed in a manner where canceling is the most important thing to do. And canceling, it's enjoyable, but it loses its allure, after a while. And so when every fight and every boss is constructed that way, it becomes less of a, well, let me build a team that can do X, Y, and Z, and it's more, let me make sure that I have the faculties available to cancel when I need to cancel. And I think that's just ultimately not as interesting. Like I said, I think it's just a fundamental flaw with this system, but also the encounter design could potentially go a long way in helping that not be as big of an issue. Because when you have multiple parts for a boss and they're all doing their own thing, there's really nothing you can do but try to cancel them, and if it's ever possible, weave in a move or something like that. Another issue with the combat in this canceling thing is you can't always see what's being cast, which I thought was kind of obnoxious because you never had perfect information to know when was the right time to stop being defensive by canceling things and go on the offensive by casting the big spells that you want to, or using Yuki to attack like 12 times and stuff like that. So I think I think there's still room for improvement on the Grandia combat system and or fight design. Um, it is fun to learn secret techniques on special moves when they are acquired. Or when they are acquired seems completely random though, since there was that one time I got one immediately into a boss fight, and when redoing that boss fight, I never saw a secret technique acquired. Yeah, this is another thing where I wish we could see the progress thing. Although even then, I'm sure like getting a secret technique kind of feels like a spin the wheel type thing, where it's, you know, like if you get lucky and you spin the wheel in the right spot when you use the skill, then you get the secret technique. But otherwise, you know, maybe you like earn experience to make the area bigger for the next spin or something like that. I don't know. It was weird. For dungeons, I don't have anything about dungeons. Still think I might just remove the dungeons part. For cardinal sins, removing a key party member without sufficient replacement. Miranda, Alonzo, Alfina, Hecht. We're going to add Hecht here. Positional damage without the ability to reposition. This has always been an issue in Grandia, but I don't think it was cardinal sinned in the other Grandias. So, gotta do that. A new cardinal sin, which is not, well, a new cardinal sin. No subtitles for cutscenes. The audio balancing in this game is not very great when voice acting is happening. Some scenes are perfectly level and I can hear everything they're saying. Sometimes they're whispering, and other times there's music playing and blasting out their voice. And, you know, other times they're just talking normally, but it's just too quiet and I can't hear anything. So I I can understand if you want to have subtitles off by default, you know, stuff like that, but you gotta have subtitles. You know, I gotta understand what they're saying. And I think semi-new Cardinal Sin, unskippable cutscenes before a boss. And I haven't officially made this a Cardinal Sin, but just in case I do, a redemption arc for the villains. You know, get that out of here. For miscellaneous sound and music, I thought the music was very Grandia. I would imagine the same composer worked on this one as the other ones because it felt very much like Grandia music. And Grandia music is kind of weird in the sense that I don't feel like it necessarily fits the JRPG area, but for whatever reason, it's so unique and different that it just works. And that's kind of my relationship with Grandia music. It's like, this is not necessarily what I want to hear for a battle theme or a final boss theme or this desert town theme, or whatever. But, you know, like more often than not, excluding the desert town theme, which didn't work, it just tends to work. It kind of reminds me of Shadow Hearts. Like, Shadow Hearts has very unique music that isn't done anywhere else in JRPGs, but it just works. And that's how Grandia music goes for me. For voice acting, the voice acting seemed, it started off actually impressing me. Like, oh wow, like they really stepped up their voice acting and their voice direction and all other stuff for this game. But as the game went on, I started to see the Grandia trademarks of how voice delivery occurs, and so it very much still has those Grandia quirks, which you like them or you don't. And then there's no subtitles, so many times where I just don't even know what characters are saying. For graphics, I actually liked the look of this game quite a bit. I think there's a lot of detail with a lot of characters and environments. I really like a lot of the animation variety. I like the difference in locales and things like that. There's a lot to like about the visual style, and even like the character models and things like that. I thought looked pretty cool and diverse. I am a little. This is not necessarily related to graphics, but I am a little disappointed that Ulf is literally the only person that uh, uh, bit Yuki, but it is what it is. For other, if it's a sequel, does it achieve more of the same? I would say this does achieve more of the same. This is one of those scenarios where it it has the core systems and it tries to do something a little bit or maybe even drastically different with those core systems, but the like it's still reminiscent of the prior games in the series. Like skills and spells and magic eggs and things like that, and skill books, like all of that stuff are in the other Grandia games. They're just implemented in slightly or more drastically different ways. So that's kind of cool to see the evolution of how these games go. Is the game worth recommending? Um, I'm kind of on the fence about this one. Um, the Grandia games kind of just devolve into some weird stuff. Not weird in the sense of like the stuff going on in the game is off the wall, bonkers and things like that, but weird in the sense of are any of the plots in Grandia 1, 2, or 3 actually different from one another? Like on sure there are a great many details that are different, but like the grand scope is very much the same. We find somebody who's important. It's usually a woman. Always a woman. Always a woman. We have our male protagonist, and they go on a journey to save the world from an evil creature that's sealed away. I think that's the synopsis of every game. And uh, the thing about it is, I don't think Grandia 3 tackles its story in a way that necessarily makes it feel like it's worth playing. I think Grandia 1 is probably more interesting than Grandia 3. But I will say that there are aspects in this game, like the combat system, that I like more from what I can remember from prior Grandia games. So I would say I would be kind of hesitant to recommend Grandia 3 because I think it's different enough from Grandia 1 and 2 that you can't necessarily say like, oh, if you like Grandia 1 and you like Grandia 2, then you'll definitely like Grandia 3 because like the way it does its characters is not necessarily the same. Um, so it's a tough one. If the developer is watching, um, I I I would say that I felt that this game was probably a net positive for me in terms of direction that Grandia is going. I like the upgrades. I like the changes. I like the overall feel of the battle system. What I tend to struggle with is just the story and the narrative and how the characters are being developed. Um, I genuinely feel this game would have been more interesting for me if literally the only characters that joined the party were Yuki, Miranda, Alfina, and Alonzo. And Alonzo is building himself up to be a father figure for and a role model for Yuki. Miranda is slowly coming to terms that maybe Alonzo is actually a good influence on Yuki and provides him access to exploring the world and being able to achieve his dream of flying an airplane. Um, and then Alfina being the main push towards that typical JRPG thing of this is a person that needs our help and we're going to help them go to the place that they need to go to. And I think just exploring those dynamics and of course Yuki wanting to help Alfina but also be, want to be a pilot, like exploring those dynamics throughout the entirety of the game and building up certain aspects, bringing a little bit of confrontation between each of the characters. I felt that was, or I feel that that would have been the route that I would have liked to see the most. It's it it is what it is, I guess. That being said, if there's a Grandia 4 out there, like I would certainly be interested in seeing how the battle system continues to evolve because I do feel that there are positive changes being made to the battle system that makes it more interesting and more engaging to play. Uh, and I guess, do I want a sequel to Grandia 3? Well, like, I haven't necessarily seen any connections between the Grandia games, so a sequel to Grandia 3 is kind of like saying, do I want a sequel to one of the Final Fantasy games or something like that, which, like never happens, so I wouldn't be opposed to a Grandia sequel. I would say that I'm not necessarily going to seek it out or go out of my way to play it or anything like that. But if one is announced, it certainly would be put on my radar. Yeah, to reiterate my overall thoughts, I enjoyed the game a lot for the opening 4 to 6 hours or so. Um, and then Yuki takes off on his plane, and the story and the development of the characters kind of crashed and burned for me. But the gameplay certainly stayed interesting for me for sure, even though most of the bosses tended to be annoying. Thankfully, that final boss was not only um, uh, decently easy to beat, but it only had one part. It was just super fast. So I would likely classify this as I thought the game was okay, like overall. Nothing great, nothing poor, just just middle of the road. That's what I got. Let me catch up on chat real quick, and if there isn't anything in the chat, then my thoughts are gonna end here.